Well, the fans answered Dan Hurley's call to pack Gamble and be loud. Unfortunately, the Huskies were stunned by the Blue Jays Wednesday night in a lackluster defensive display. We'll break down that quad 3 loss.
But program legend Emeka Okafor's return to Stores could be called a silver lining. He became the third men's basketball player to have his number retired at Gamble. That's coming up.
But first, veteran ESPN reporter Holly Rowe joins the show to talk UConn women's hoops dominance, and she gives us her take on which program has the potential to dethrone the Huskies. Connecticut Game Week starts right now.
This has been brewing, for us, just based on what the defenses look like. The defense has been a joke.
Yeah, Wednesday night's quad 3 losses, no laughing matter for Hurley or the Huskies. After then, number 5 UConn suffered their second conference loss of the season in a game of bad defense and early substitutions for the Huskies. Welcome into Connecticut Game Week, everyone. I'm Alexa Harley.
And I'm Sean Humphrey. Quite the contrast from early in the season when Coach Hurley was telling us that his defense was good enough to win the team games where the offense was playing poorly. You mentioned the two biggest pieces of that midweek 91-84 loss, which was bad defense, as we mentioned, has been brewing for quite some time, and early substitutions. Dan Hurley made his first change on the court only 2.5 minutes into the game, which is not the norm for this team.
And not something he was happy about either. It hasn't been a norm, as well as missing from the free throw line. You know what they say, Sean, free throws win basketball games. Make your free throws. But when you break down Wednesday night's box score, Creighton went to the line 32 times compared to UConn's 18. The Blue Jays went 27 of those 32, while the Huskies only hit 11 of those 18. And the Jays made 16 more shots from the line, and then they go on to win by 7. But you look at that box score, and there's a lot just to not like about Wednesday night's game. And UConn still has that first round bye in the Big East tournament, and they've got a crucial rematch with St. John's next week, which I know you will be breaking down for us in just a little bit, but they've also got a big game on Saturday too.
Villanova on the road, and Villanova's been one of the top teams in the Big East this season. And you know the crowd in Philly is going to show up for the Huskies. The Big East crowds, they get up for UConn.
Well, especially when UConn's, not playing their best ball. But as far as Wednesday night's loss, Coach Hurley says that it's just been brewing for a while.
These last 4 games, I think we've been around the 165th best defense in the country. So we've been playing with fire with this. Obviously, overall defense dreadful, and then minus Braylon in the second half. Just the shot making was just ice cold. You're in trouble to start the game when you're subbing people within the first minute and a half of the game on blown assignments, and because it was a game of really bad individual defense. Creighton went at us from a one-on-one standpoint. That's what's been going on the last couple of games. Coaches are smart. They're targeting our guys that can't guard. If we can't fix that, we're going to obviously have issues moving forward.
Yeah, like Sean mentioned, UConn's got 2 big games on the slate next week and just 4 left on the regular season. They'll start on the road Saturday at Villanova. Then they'll be back in Hartford Wednesday night with a rematch with St. John's. We'll have more on that later. Now, Sean, Friday the 13th, which was last week, is supposed to be scary and a superstitious day, but make way for Wednesday the 18th, because it was not just the UConn men's team that struggled on the hardwood.
The Creighton Blue Jays were the Creighton boogeyman in a way, but believe it or not, the undefeated reigning national champions actually trailed at halftime against Villanova. Now, to be fair to them, they did come out with a win, but in a rematch of what was once a 49-point UConn win this season, this was a little surprising. The score was 40-37 at halftime, with the Wildcats in the lead, believe it or not. The Huskies outscored Nova by 14 in the third quarter, and 14 points was the final margin of victory. That's a shift from what we've seen most of the season. Immediately after a 15-point Valentine's Day victory over Marquette snapped a 21-game streak of wins by at least 25. Now, next up for the Huskies, senior day at Gamble. They'll host Providence College.
And speaking of UConn women's hoops, one woman has been on the baseline to cover several, and I mean several, national titles for this program. That's ESPN veteran sports reporter Holly Rowe. And I got the chance to talk with her this week about the state of women's hoops and, of course, what she thinks of this 2025-2026 UConn team and how they compare to some of the legendary squads of the past. Take a listen.
I think of their 12 national championships. I think I've covered maybe 7 or 8 of them. So I've been able to see all of the great, many of the great UConn teams over the years. And I would say, back in the day with Stephanie Dolson and Brianna Stewart, those teams were great. The Tina Charles, Maya Moore, Renee Montgomery era was good. And then I'm like always for the OG era, like the Sue Bird, Shea Ralph, Swin Cash. That team to me was the best I'd ever seen because of their work ethic. So I'm going to lean to the Stewie era just because that's the most recent one, and she won 4 in a row. And so I do think they're right up there. I just think that they still have a lot of competition within the history of UConn.
Yeah, a lot of legends to talk about, and we're talking about one star currently on the team. The Huskies will be without Ice Brady for the remainder of the season. The redshirt junior underwent successful knee surgery this past week to repair a knee injury. Brady appeared in UConn's first 2 games of the season, but has been sidelined since. Brady took to Instagram saying, quote, "I'm fully committed to my recovery and trust this setback will prepare me for an even greater comeback."
Our top dog's name has been synonymous with winning since his second national championship, and it's why you'll hear Alex Caraban called a handful of things that aren't his first name. His teammates call him Cap for his leadership and AK after his initials, but the program can now call him its greatest winner. Caraban's 116th win came against the Georgetown Hoyas. The team honored him in a short ceremony after the game with former teammate Jordan Hawkins in attendance. And while the team is likely more concerned about win 117 than any that came before, Caraban, Solo Ball, and Coach Hurley have no problem looking back at the legacy AK has built at UConn.
When I first came to UConn, I was worried about playing, like just getting out there and just making an impact. And to now have been here and to be the all-time winningest player at, it's a program like UConn. It's a special program. It's a historic program, and so many legends, so many great players, so many great winners. And, to have my name at the top of that list, it's special. And I'll forever be blessed for all the teammates I've had. I'll forever be blessed to play for the best coaching staff that's made it easier to get those wins too.
His growth in college, his growth on this campus, and as a man, as someone that's confident, as a confident, manly, good person that's all about team, and his alter ego. It's like his happy place is on the court.
Yeah, just a true veteran through and through, most definitely. Being around him for the past 3 years, definitely my locker mate too in the practice facility, if that means too much, but it just makes everything easier for everyone around him. And that's one thing that you can't trade for the world. Just being out on the court, you know exactly where you need to be. You can ask him for literally anything. And then off the court, just a great dude, down to earth, calm, definitely has his size to him, but I love AK, man.
I'm Kevin Ferry. When it counts, you need a top dog on your side. That's Ferry Law, proud sponsor of Connecticut Game Week's Top Dog.
And there's much more to come here on Connecticut Game Week in our Best in Show. Gino Auriemma puts his name in the record books once again, and a fan walks more than 40 miles to a UConn home game. And as the Dogs hope to get back on track, they'll have to play one of their toughest opponents again before UConn has a chance to avenge a loss against St. John's in Hartford. We'll preview the matchup with the Big East Energy Network's Mark Zanetto.
And later, for anyone who ever dreamt of dabbling in the pole vault, we got a step-by-step breakdown from some UConn track standouts on just how exactly the pole vault is done. Stay with us.
Just leaving the house now. It's about 3 a.m. and we're walking to Gamble Pavilion.
Well, we begin our Best in Show in epic fashion. You just heard Henry Blethyn, known by UConn Nation as Little Red. He decided to walk all the way to Stores from West Hartford to raise money for the Husky Ticket Project. That's more than 30 miles, in case you were wondering. He ended up raising more than $10,000. Alexa, I got to tell you, I talked talked to Henry about the home atmosphere and how he felt about doing what he did and how it might inspire the fan base. Safe to say he's glad he did it, but also glad it's all over.
You know what I'm learning about the Husky Ticket Project? They don't do anything small. It's go big or go home. You got this walking challenge. You had the pickle juice and electrolytes a few weeks ago. So always something fun out of the Husky Ticket Project.
Yeah, don't expect us to be walking 30 miles. We did try the pickle juice and electrolytes, but this is...
What, you got your sneakers on? You don't want to walk all the way to stores?
Don't make me take my shoes off in the studio. Nobody wants to see that.
All right, some more best in show for you. 30 miles was insane, but meanwhile, we got future Husky Colvin Landrew, one of the 10 semifinalists for the Naismith Trophy Boys High School Player of the Year. The 4-star recruit was greeted by an uproar in Gamble last week. It could be a sign of things to come for the senior from Marietta, Georgia.
And moving on from that, after lights-out performances against Butler and Georgetown, Solo Ball is the Big East Player of the Week, but he also hit a major milestone as a Husky. He scored his 1,000th point, and as a 2024 national champion, he says he's more focused on the chase for the team's 3rd title in 4 seasons. Still, he says the accolade itself is humbling.
To be honest, going into the game, I don't really think about any of that stuff. So, I mean, the fact that I hit 1,000 points is definitely a blessing. Thank the man upstairs, thank God. But that's what you live for. It's, just growing up playing basketball your whole life. I mean, that's just something you just dream of in your backyard, playing at the college basketball level and then scoring 1,000 points. So I find that pretty cool.
And last but certainly not least, Gino Auriemma tied former Stanford coach Tara Vanderveer for the most appearances in the AP Top 25. To no surprise, the UConn women stayed at number 1 for yet another week, marking Auriemma's 654th appearance in the top 25 and the Huskies' 619th straight, dating all the way back to 1993. The defending champs have also won 44 games in a row as well. And in this past week, Auriemma was also named to the Naismith Coach of the Year watch list for what could be his 9th time winning the award.
Well, it's time for some recon. A key rematch looms for the men's basketball team as it prepares to face the St. John's Red Storm. Let's welcome in Mark Sonetto, the founder of the Big East Energy Network YouTube channel and host of the Hoops Cap, a daily UConn podcast. Mark, big matchup, toughest test remaining on paper for this UConn team. Talk to me about the edge the Johnnies have had over the Huskies.
Yeah, for me, it's when you're playing St. John's, it's always about the physicality. I feel like UConn's especially if you go back to last year, you could tell that St. John's team with Rick Pitino, he even said it I was actually in stores for that game where UConn got out to like a 16-point lead. They were shooting something like 70%. The place was rocking. I've never heard it so loud in my life. And then it just started to kind of deflate from there. And basically what Coach Pitino said in the press conference is, he said, you know what? He's like, we're a deeper team than them, and we're going to try to beat them up and take their legs out from them. And that's exactly what happened. UConn has to find a way to match their physicality and punch them in the mouth, to use a euphemism, and really get aggressive with this team, or you're going to see a very similar carbon copy to the last game in Madison Square Garden, where this UConn team can't handle the pressure and is going to have to rely on, phenomenal shooting. But sometimes that just doesn't happen in the Big East. Sometimes you got to win wars, and St. John's is more equipped for that than UConn is at this point, unfortunately.
You talked about UConn punching St. John's in the mouth, and given recent events, let's hope they don't take that literally, because we've seen St. John's go a step beyond physicality with the scuffle heard around the college basketball world against Providence. And that could be considered something that highlights the physicality you talked about. But where does something like that, a hard foul, some pushing and shoving, actually give St. John's an advantage?
Everyone wants to see the old Big East until the old Big East shows up. And the old Big East showed up, and everyone was clutching their pearls. Well, that was what basketball used to be like. And unfortunately, we've devolved into, we've kind of diverted into this new normal, which is like if a guy gets hit hard, it's like, flagrant 1, flagrant 2. Was it a dirty play? Absolutely. But the St. John's angle of that is they responded. They were down 1. They made a bunch of free throws. And then they just stepped on Providence's neck, and it was over. Like they just put them away. So that's a staple of a Rick Pitino team. And as much as I hate to say that, because I've want UConn to win these games, we cover the whole Big East at our YouTube channel, and so I've got a lot of guys on my staff that essentially have told me from the start that St. John's was the better team. And I was like, oh, we'll see. The season goes on. Right now, I think you have to say that. I hate to say it with all the UConn gear behind me and wearing all this stuff, that St. John's is just a better equipped team. Whether they can actually do that in March is another story. UConn's obviously proven that over the years. I just think it's such a tough matchup for this UConn team currently constructed.
Well, Mark Zanetto, Big East Energy Network, host of the Hoops Cap on all podcast platforms. Thank you for joining us. UConn, St. John's, Wednesday night at People's Bank Arena. Tip-off is at 7.
Still to come here on Connecticut Game Week. 1 week, 2 Huskies honored. We'll hear from 2 all-time men's basketball greats, Hasheem Thabeet and Emeka Okafor, right after this.
In the past week, UConn men's basketball has honored 2 of the greatest players in program history. And Alexa, let's start with Emeka Okafor.
I mean, where do you start? He was the National Player of the Year, a national champion, the 2nd pick in the 2004 NBA draft. He even finished his degree in less than 3 years. Talk about overachiever, am I right? And his most recent honor brought him back to the spot where he made so much history. On Wednesday, Okafor was joined by friends, family, and Hall of Fame coach Jim Calhoun as UConn officially retired Okafor's number 50, which means no man and no woman who plays basketball for UConn will ever sport the 50 on the back ever again, thanks to Okafor and, of course, Rebecca Lobo, whose number also was retired. Now, since Okafor led his team to the 2004 national title, the men's and women's teams have raised a combined 11 championship banners. That reality, a legacy of winning, is what he says has sunk in during his return to campus.
It's a cool thing, man. It's a cool thing. My family's here. We just toured the practice facility, and now I'm seeing it. I've been there. I've obviously walked through it, but now I'm really soaking in the legacies, going in on both the men's and women's side, looking at all the numbers and all the pictures, and being like, man, what a special basketball powerhouse.
And that's not the only honor he's in line for. Okafor will be inducted into UConn's Business Hall of Fame in April. And Sean, he's one of 2 program greats that were honored this past week.
That's right, Alexa. 2-time National Defensive Player of the Year, Hasheem Thabeet, became a Husky of honor this past Saturday. He and his teammates reached the Final Four in 2009 before he was drafted 2nd overall in that year's NBA draft. Now he's playing in his native Tanzania and says he wants the next generation in his home country to have a path forward in basketball.
Very different, and to me, I'm not playing to prove anything. I'm trying to empower them, hey, I play there and I can play here with you guys. So, hey, learn something from me. I'm not playing there to win trophies or nothing. I'm trying to empower my young guys, and that's been very important to me. Like I say, I didn't have anybody to pull my hand when I was coming out. Now I can pull as many kids as I can, and I'll do it.
Okafor and Thabeet still hold the program's top 2 spots in career blocks per game.
And I call this next one pole vaulting POV. When we come back, we'll hear from some of the pole vaulting standouts at UConn on how exactly they go from point A to point B on the track.
There are so many different eye-catching events at a track and field meet, but perhaps the coolest one is the pole vault. And Connecticut Game Week's Alexa Harley ventured out to stores for a little investigative reporting. The investigation, how to pole vault. Check it out.
Pole vaulting is an event that often generates the most oohs and ahs from the crowd. Whether you're a spectator watching a track meet or just catching a video on social media, sports fans can't help but keep their eyes glued on the athletes high stepping down the runway and then flying through the air. But how exactly is it done? Step 1 starts with the feet.
Depending on what run we're running from, usually in a competition we're running from more of a longer approach. We count our left feet, so we're at a mark that we've figured out in practice through several attempts usually. And we're at that mark kind of just psyching yourself up, getting ready to run and jump into a stationary thing.
And after psyching yourself up, you move into step 2. getting to your top speed.
I would say driving out is like your first one. You just want to get as aggressive as possible and just push out, reach your top speed, and then set your posture. Start thinking about bringing the pole down.
Step 3, plant the pole and rotate.
Once you get like up to the pit, the last thing you want to be thinking about is like looking down or like the jump. You just want to plant and then start going through the motions that you've been working on. So just like swing through, make sure you get a good swing, shoulders back.
That's when the gymnastics in your upper body strength comes in, where you have to like fight the pole and be able to come back against it when like everything is fighting against you to just throw you around the place.
And once you've flown up and over, it's time for that final step, letting gravity do the rest.
The plant alone takes so long to learn. People don't realize how fast you're coming in at it, and when you're using poles, everybody has a certain pole for their body weight, and it's a very unnatural movement, and there's times where you're obviously rocking back, and that can feel scary and that can feel dangerous. Just becoming comfortable with that feeling of, oh, you're going to be upside down. And then on top of that, you're going to be like working against gravity and trying to get as high as possible while upside down. So that's not a feeling that comes natural.
Jump and swing and hope for the best.
Time now for what's in stores. Like we mentioned early in the show, the men's basketball team has a big rematch against Villanova Saturday. The Huskies took round 1 in Hartford a few weeks ago, but they enter the weekend's matchup with 2 losses in 3 games. Tip-off in Philly is at 5:30.
And the Huskies will recognize their seniors on Sunday after their game against Providence. Sarah Williams, Caroline Ducharme, Azzy Fudd, Ice Brady, and Ayanna Patterson will all be honored. Fudd, a grad student, also took part in last year's celebration. Tip-off is at noon.
Hard to believe, but the regular season for the UConn women's hockey team comes to a close Saturday night against Merrimack. UConn split a pair of games against the Warriors earlier in the season. It'll also be senior day for them.
Now, Sean, you've got something, a little show and tell for us.
Yeah, I've been excited to show people this. Congrats again to Emeka Okafor. This is the cover of NCAA March Madness 2005. For my money, one of the best basketball games
He's
I've ever
brought
played.
this in all week and showed everybody at the station. Don't worry.
Finally had a reason to use it. We'll catch you next week.